She collapses to her knees, tears streaming down her face as she begs Madame Yabo, "Please, Madame Yabo, don't do this. You're taking away my livelihood. I'm begging you give me another chance. You're removing food from my table." Madame Yabo's expression remains stern but sympathetic. "Bisola, you know what you need to do. I've done my part, but you have to make your own sacrifices as well. I've tried to help you. Now you need to show me that you're willing to do the same." Bisola, confused, not knowing what to do, she has lost everything in one day. She stood up, deciding to walk home to clear her head. Memories of how she started living the Lagos big girl life floods her mind. In the bustling city of Lagos, Nigeria, lives Bisola, a vibrant and beautiful young woman, and her boyfriend Deji. They share a modest yet cozy room and parlor apartment, their personal haven amidst the city's hustle. Bisola's life seems ordinary, but her heart yearns for something more. 2 months ago, on a typical morning, Bisola, still in her pajamas, sits at the small table in the living room, having breakfast. Her eyes are glued to her phone, scrolling through Instagram. The sight of her friends flaunting engagement rings, buying new cars, and living seemingly perfect lives fills her with a pang of envy. Deep inside, she wishes for the same excitement and status. Just then, Deji emerges from their bedroom, cheerful and full of morning energy. "Good morning, treasure," he greets her, a warm smile on his face. However, Bisola's frustration boils over. "And what's so good about the morning?" she snaps back. "Your mates are proposing to their girlfriends, and here we are, stuck in this apartment with nothing changing." Her outburst leaves Deji stunned, and his once bright mood quickly sours. Bisola, unable to stomach her breakfast, stands up abruptly and heads out to work, leaving Deji alone with his thoughts. Feeling disheartened but determined, Deji decides to take action. That night, he plans to propose to Bisola, hoping that this gesture will address her discontent and solidify their future together. He is anxious but resolute, wishing to turn their mundane days into a fairy tale. On a radiant Sunday morning in Lagos, the city pulses with energy as Bisola arrives at her workplace, a chic and vibrant manicure and pedicure salon. The sunlight pours in through the large windows, illuminating the salon's modern decor and creating a warm and inviting atmosphere. Today, the salon is unusually quiet, with only Bisola present, as her colleagues enjoy their well-deserved day off. Bisola, still preoccupied by the events of the morning, sets up her station with a mix of routine and distraction. As she prepares her tools, the salon's door chimes, announcing the arrival of Madame Yabo, a respected and elegant woman known for her success and commanding presence. "Good morning, Madame Yabo," Bisola greets with a forced cheerfulness, trying to push her morning frustration aside. "Morning, Bisola. I'm here for my mani-pedi," Madame Yabo responds with a warm smile, her demeanor exuding confidence. As Bisola leads Madame Yabo to the pedicure chair and begins her work, her phone buzzes with a call from Deji. She answers briefly, reassuring him that she's safely at the salon. The call, though brief, is a reminder of Deji's thoughtfulness and adds to Bisola's mixed emotions. Madame Yabo, noticing the slight tension in Bisola's demeanor, decides to engage her in conversation. "So, Bisola," Madame Yabo starts, "why are you working today when your colleagues are enjoying their day off?" Bisola chuckles lightly. "Oh, I haven't quite made enough to take days off yet." Madame Yabo nods thoughtfully. "Is this the only job you're doing?" "Yes, it is," Bisola replies, focusing on her work but keen to continue the conversation. "Well, you might want to consider a side hustle. It's always wise to have multiple sources of income," Madame Yabo suggests. Bisola listens, nodding in agreement. "That's good advice." Madame Yabo then shifts to a more personal topic. "Your boyfriend seems like a nice man. I've heard good things about him." "He is," Bisola replies with a sigh, "but sometimes niceness doesn't pay the bills." Madame Yabo raises an eyebrow, intrigued. "Do you really like him?" "I do love him," Bisola says earnestly, but it feels like he doesn't have enough to provide the life I want. Madame Yabo's expression softens with understanding. I see. As Bisola finishes up with Madame Yabo's manicure and pedicure, the conversation takes an unexpected turn. Madame Yabo makes a surprising offer. Bisola, Madame Yabo says, I have a proposal for you. How about this? If you allow me to spend 3 days with your boyfriend getting to know him and spending time with him, I will help you with a 1 millionaire grant and set you up with a shop to start your own business. Bisola is taken aback. You want to spend 3 days with my boyfriend? Why? Madame Yabo's tone is gentle but firm. Sometimes we take the care we have for granted while others yearn for it. I want to see if the connection you have with him is as special as it seems. Bisola feels a mix of guilt and temptation. The prospect of financial support and starting her own business is alluring, but the idea of another woman spending time with Deji causes her discomfort. Thank you for the offer, Madame Yabo, Bisola says, trying to keep her voice steady. I'll think about it and get back to you before Wednesday. Madame Yabo nods with a knowing smile. Take your time, Bisola. Sometimes the right choice isn't always the easiest one. As Bisola prepares to close the salon for the day, her mind is a whirlwind of conflicting thoughts. The opportunity to receive financial help and start her own business is tempting, but the emotional complexity of the situation weighs heavily on her. As Bisola arrives home that evening, the sun has dipped below the horizon, and the city of Lagos is aglow with the lights of evening activity. She unlocks the door to their modest apartment and is immediately struck by an unexpected sight. The living room is adorned with soft, romantic decorations. The room is illuminated with warm, ambient lighting from candles, and the dining table is elegantly set for two with a white tablecloth, polished silverware, and flickering candles. Deji, dressed in a neatly pressed shirt and trousers, is waiting for her in the living room. His face lights up with a warm smile as Bisola steps inside. Welcome home, Bisola, Deji says, his voice brimming with affection. Bisola, still processing the surprise, takes in the scene with a mixture of confusion and curiosity. Deji, what's all this about? Why is the house decorated like this? Deji walks over to her, taking her hands in his. I just wanted to spoil you a little, he replies with a hopeful glint in his eye. I've been thinking a lot about us, and I wanted tonight to be special. Bisola, touched but still overwhelmed by her earlier frustrations, nods and heads to freshen up. She quickly changes into something more comfortable, trying to put aside the day's events and focus on the evening's unexpected romance. When Bisola returns to the dining area, the table is already set with a delicious meal. Deji has clearly put a lot of effort into preparing this dinner, aiming to create a memorable experience. As they sit down to eat, the atmosphere is filled with the soft music of a love ballad playing in the background. Throughout the meal, Bisola and Deji converse about their day, their hopes, and their dreams. The conversation flows naturally, and for a moment, the tensions of the day seem to melt away. As they are finishing their meal, Deji's demeanor changes. He becomes more serious, his eyes filled with emotion. Without warning, he stands up, walks over to Bisola, and, to her shock, gets down on one knee. Bisola, Deji begins, his voice trembling slightly with nerves and anticipation. I know things haven't been easy for us. We've had our share of struggles, and we don't have much. But I love you deeply, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me? Bisola's eyes widen in surprise. She is momentarily speechless, and a mixture of emotions flickers across her face. Then, unable to contain her disbelief, she bursts into laughter, a harsh, mocking laugh that fills the room. In which house do you want to marry me into, Deji? She says, her voice tinged with scorn. This house? The one where we share the rent and split the bills. This house where we're barely making ends meet. I can't marry you, Deji. Stand up and let's finish our food. With that, Bisola waves her hand dismissively and continues eating, her mood shifting back to a more casual, almost indifferent demeanor. Her laughter echoes through the room, a painful contrast to the hopeful proposal. Deji, crushed by her reaction, feels his heart break. His face pales, and he struggles to maintain his composure. He quietly stands up, his shoulders slumped, and makes his way to the door. Without another word, he exits the apartment, needing to clear his head and process the sting of rejection. A few moments after Deji leaves the apartment, Bisola is left alone in the dimly lit room, her mind racing with conflicting emotions. The romantic atmosphere set by Deji earlier in the evening now feels like a backdrop to a tense drama. She hears the sound of the door opening again and watches as Deji walks back into the room, his face lined with frustration. Bisola, trying to break the awkward silence, asks with a hint of concern, "Deji, where did you go?" Deji's response is sharp and laced with hurt. "Who are you calling baby now? You rejected my proposal. Why are you pretending everything is okay?" Bisola's face falls, and she takes a deep breath, trying to soften her tone. "I'm really sorry, Deji. It's just that I don't think it's the right time for us to get married. We need to be financially stable first. I love you, and I want to be with you, but I need us to be in a better place before we take that step." Deji's face shows a mix of sadness and resignation. "All right, I understand," he says quietly, though the pain is evident in his eyes. Bisola hesitates before speaking again. "I have something else I need to discuss with you." Deji looks at her, his curiosity piqued despite his earlier frustration. "What is it?" Bisola takes a deep breath, her voice steady. "Today, at work, Madame Yabo came in and overheard you calling me this morning. She made me an offer. She wants to spend 3 days with you, and in return, she would give us money." Deji's expression darkens with confusion and growing anger. "Why are you doing this to me, Bisola? Why would you even consider letting her spend time with me?" Bisola's eyes are filled with a mix of determination and hesitation. "Because we need the money, Deji. I'm just trying to find a way for us to improve our situation." Deji's face hardens as he processes Bisola's words. "So, you're willing to sacrifice our relationship and my dignity for money?" Bisola tries to explain, "It's not about sacrificing our relationship, it's about securing our future. She's offering us a significant amount, and it could really help us get ahead." Deji's frustration peaks, but he knows he can't win an argument with Bisola. "Fine," he says, his voice strained. "I'll agree to it, but only on one condition. I want 40% of the money. I'll need it to make up for this." Bisola nods, though she feels conflicted about the arrangement. "Okay, I'll let Madame Yabo know." Deji leaves for the 3-day arrangement with Madame Yabo. The days are tense, filled with discomfort and unspoken tension. Deji finds himself grappling with the sense of betrayal and the sting of Bisola's earlier rejection. Madame Yabo's presence and the underlying motives make the situation more uncomfortable for him. Upon returning, Deji's demeanor is markedly different. He walks into the apartment, his shoulders slumped and his face a mask of dissatisfaction. The romantic decorations from earlier in the evening are now just a reminder of the pain he's. Bisola, eager to hear how things went, approaches him. "How was it? Did you get a chance to talk with Madame Yabo?" Deji's response is curt and filled with frustration. "It was an unpleasant experience. I saw how your greed for the money overshadowed our relationship. I realized that this isn't just about finances. It's about respect and trust. We need to address these issues if we want to move forward." Bisola is taken aback by Deji's harsh words. "What do you mean?" Deji's voice is filled with resolve. "I'm starting to think that the only way for us to address our financial struggles and improve our situation is for me to make more money." The weight of Deji's words hangs heavy in the room. Bisola, feeling a mix of guilt and regret, understands that their relationship needs more than just financial stability, it needs a renewed focus on mutual respect and trust. The month following Deji's return from his time with Madame Yabo is marked by a strange and unsettling change in Basola's behavior. To the outside world, Basola seems to be flourishing. She dresses impeccably, showcasing a polished and sophisticated appearance that signals her newfound success. Her wardrobe now features high-end fashion, and she effortlessly projects an image of confidence and prosperity. However, beneath the surface, there's a ritual Basola follows each day. She starts her mornings in the same modest attire she wore at her former workplace. Once she arrives at her friend's boutique, she discreetly changes into more glamorous outfits before stepping out to meet her friends or engage in her daily activities. This routine is her way of maintaining an image of success while keeping her financial gains under wraps. Deji, who has been growing increasingly suspicious of Basola's behavior since the money from Madame Yabo's offer, decides to follow her one day. His concern has been mounting, and he feels that there's something he's not being told. On this particular day, Deji shadows Basola discreetly, observing her as she goes through her routine. He watches as she leaves their apartment dressed modestly, heads to the boutique, and emerges a short while later in a designer outfit that starkly contrasts with her earlier attire. Deji's heart sinks as he sees Basola's behavior unfold before him. The transformation she undergoes is jarring. He feels a mix of betrayal and heartbreak, realizing that the success she's been flaunting may not be as genuine as it seemed. This revelation not only wounds him emotionally but also ignites a fierce determination in him. Deji resolves that he must make a significant change in his life. He will work tirelessly to build wealth and ensure that he never has to feel this way again. The following week, Madame Yabo visits Basola's newly established shop. She walks in with an air of grace and authority, her presence commanding attention. She congratulates Basola warmly on her progress and the apparent success of the business. Basola, putting on a polite smile, thanks her and engages in light conversation. As the visit comes to a close and Madame Yabo prepares to leave, she pauses and makes a surprising offer. Basola, she says with a hint of seriousness, I would like to spend more time with your boyfriend. Basola's face tenses at the unexpected request. She knows that Deji will not agree to this, and she is uncomfortable with the thought of further involving him. I don't think that will be possible, Basola replies diplomatically. Deji might not be comfortable with this. Madame Yabo's expression turns serious. You have 3 days to make a decision. If you refuse my request, you risk losing this shop. It's a significant opportunity, and I don't want to see it slip away. Basola is taken aback by the ultimatum. The threat to her business is stark and immediate, and she feels the weight of the decision pressing heavily and realizes that her choices will impact not only her career but her relationship with Deji as well. Basola returns home, her heart heavy with the weight of her recent discoveries and the unraveling of her carefully crafted life. Her steps are slow, and her face is etched with sorrow, a stark contrast to the vibrant persona she has been projecting. As she enters the apartment, Deji is immediately struck by her demeanor. He senses that something is deeply wrong, and his concern grows as he watches her struggle to mask her pain. Deji approaches Basola, trying to offer comfort and support. Hey, what's wrong? You look like you've been through a lot. Is there anything I can do to help? Despite Deji's efforts to cheer her up with gentle words and small gestures, Basola's mood remains unchanged. The weight of their situation and the emotional toll of her recent decisions have left her feeling desolate. Feeling desperate and seeing no other way to salvage her situation, Basola decides to test if Deji might be willing to fulfill Madame Yabo's request. She musters up her courage and approaches him with a tentative hope. Deji, do you want to help lift my mood? Deji, still concerned but unsure of what to expect, responds, yes, I want to help. What do you need? Bisola takes a deep breath and says, Madame Yabo wants you to meet with her again for 3 days. It's a chance to save the shop and secure our future. Deiji's initial reaction is a mixture of disbelief and a bitter laugh. You can't be serious. You want me to go back to her just like that? After everything that's happened. The conversation ends with Deiji's laughter and Bisola's heavy heart, unresolved. Despite her attempts to persuade him over the next few days, Deiji remains firm in his refusal, unwilling to be manipulated or used again. As the deadline set by Madame Yabo approaches, tension mounts. Bisola's attempts to convince Deiji are fruitless, and her frustration builds. On the final day, Madame Yabo arrives at the shop, accompanied by her imposing bodyguards. They march into the shop with a commanding presence, signaling the end of the grace period. Without a word, Madame Yabo and her bodyguards begin locking up the shop, effectively shutting down Bisola's business. Bisola, realizing the gravity of the situation, is overwhelmed with emotion. She collapses to her knees, tears streaming down her face as she begs Madame Yabo, Please, Madame Yabo, don't do this. You're taking away my livelihood. I'm begging you give me another chance. You're removing food from my table. Madame Yabo's expression remains stern but sympathetic. Bisola, you know what you need to do. I've done my part, but you have to make your own sacrifices as well. I've tried to help you. Now you need to show me that you're willing to do the same. With those final words, Madame Yabo and her bodyguards leave, leaving Bisola alone in the empty shop, surrounded by the remnants of her shattered dreams.